All right, if you're like me, the last couple of days, you've been following the story about that CEO from United Healthcare that got murked by the guy that used a vintage World War II implement to carry out his dastardly deed. But what has come of this is truly remarkable. There is no sympathy for that guy, as one commenter left a statement saying that he was responsible for not providing the healthcare that the healthcare system should have provided in order to save thousands and thousands of people, maybe even more than that. But they're seeing the dark side, that we're finally seeing what society has held back. And I talk about this in almost all my videos, but rich people are public enemy number one to everyone else because they're the ones that make decisions on things like pay raises. Today, when my coworkers came in from a different office, and the look on his face was that of a person that was angry, that was disappointed, but at the same time, instead of just quitting his job, because I know that that's what he was feeling, because I got a 1 on my annual review. He got a perfect score on his annual review. And we both got the equal increase in pay, which was nothing. And he just kept telling me today that I don't understand. I don't understand why I didn't get any pay increase. And I haven't gotten more than a 3% pay increase, which is pennies, over the last 3 years. And I said to him, you know who makes those decisions? The executives. They decide on what's going to happen with the proletariat pay. And when they decide that they're not going to pay us more, that's a final decision. And it comes down to guess what? Bonuses, making money, making certain that the proletariat stays poor. So the sympathy right now for the executive class of people, I saw today that they actually put out a statement from, I think it was on, I heard it was on Reddit, about how they're having employees do a loyalty check with workers to make certain that their loyalty is with the executives, that no one has any grudge against the executives for the way that they treat people. But the American people have spoken. There is no sympathy out there. Even Mello messaged me this morning and she was asking me about it because she's like, I don't condone violence. I mean, no one should condone violence. But the violence that has been carried out through exploitation and negligence of poor people and the working class people is reached a point in which we can't survive anymore. The paychecks are too small, the greed is too much, and America's finally, and I think it took this event finally ready to look at the people whose fault it is that they're extremely poor. And with that said, let's get into today's story. This is a story again from a long-term viewer of the channel who suggested my last story. In fact, his comments are so good that they're turning into whole videos by themselves. And I think you guys are really enjoying the story format because my views are amazing the last few days. I mean, I just looked at my last video that I posted this morning, and it has a perfect score. Everything is up. Retention, clickability, every part of the video is doing well. So YouTube rates you on ranking by views, which is 1 out of 10, which is a perfect score. Then it rates you by views, which is a perfect score of 1.2 thousand views. Impression click-through rate 8.3%, which is extremely high for any YouTuber. Average view duration is over 12 and a half minutes on this morning's video. those are numbers that YouTubers absolutely love to see. If every YouTuber on the internet could have numbers like that, they would be in lust with YouTube. But those numbers are hard to get. In fact, over the last 3 days, I've talked to a few people at work that think that, you know, they're not going to make it on their hourly jobs and they're looking for alternative careers to jump into. In fact, this guy that was complaining about not getting a raise today told me, he's like, I have to start a YouTube channel. And I was talking to a guy before him who said that he's already been working on ideas, but he's shy on the mic. And believe me, you can't be shy on the mic if you're going to do this for work. This is a job. And I know you guys understand that doing a job like this, talking on the internet, it's a job that requires your ability to speak on the fly. Uh, I don't pre-script my responses. I just go with whatever I'm feeling, and that is extremely hard to do on a platform like this because either people are going to really like you because they like your voice, and I'm speaking to someone specifically right now, they really, really like your voice, or they just want to hear what you have to say because not everyone can speak. And it takes a lot of education to be able to do something like this, and it also takes something else that you can't teach people, and that's a certain amount of personality. And that's hard to do. That's something you have or you do not have. And with that said, let's get into our first paragraph here. So, of course, whatever image you guys are seeing, it took the description of the room where this is taking place to create that image. But again, I don't know what you guys are looking at yet because I haven't generated those images yet. So here we go. They say freedom isn't free, and I feel that every single day, every time I choose between paying the rent or buying enough food to last the week, every time I pray that the lights stay on for just one more month, but deep down I know it's not just me. The system wasn't built for people like me. It was designed to keep us right here at this table counting pennies. When I think of electricity in that sense, so here in Arizona, they have something called Empower. If your credit rating isn't high enough, you have to buy prepaid power. And it's called Empower. It's a little box that they put inside of your house. And you have to keep adding prepaid cash to this box, or else your lights turn off. This is a perfect measure that's anti-poor people. If your credit score isn't high enough, you do not get the luxury of getting a monthly bill. You get the luxury of literally a machine that eats cash in your living room in order to keep the lights on. It is a perfect analogy for our society because they want that box, the prepaid box, to exist for everything in our world. And in a sense, it does because either you're going to pay for your groceries or you're not. You're going to pay your rent or you're not. You're going to pay for your car or they're going to come and take it away. You pay for gas to get to work and you have to prepay your gas. So we live in a world of prepaid. But there are certain aspects of our lives that are just made more miserable when you are considered a risk, right? When Poles are thought of to let them borrow money, whether it's for a house, a car loan, a credit card, anything, they assess you based on one thing. What does your credit look like? And if your credit's not good, like mine, you are not going to get any of the world perks, of the regular world perks. There's a reason why people like me have to rent rooms that they find on Craigslist because our credit is so bad that no one will give us an apartment. Luckily, my current apartment complex doesn't run credit checks. It wants to see paycheck stubs. So whenever you rent an apartment here, they'll look at 3 months paycheck stubs, and that's how they decide whether or not they're going to rent an apartment for you. Because at that point, they get first month's, last month's, and a security deposit. That's a lot of money up front. And the second you don't pay your rent on time, the eviction process starts immediately, within days. Within 5 days, you get that first notice. And they get you out quick and they keep your money. That's why they do it, because in the short term, they're going to make money. They're going to get 2 months worth of rent out of you, plus they're going to keep your security deposit. Believe me, they don't lose money when people don't pay their rent unless they can't evict them fast enough. But that's really what it comes down to. It's a system that was built for rich people, because the rich people that own this apartment complex made certain that they would maximize their profits by marginalizing people that have to live in this particular apartment complex. And with that said, let's move on to our next talking point here. They tell you the system is broken. That's how they get you to hope it can be fixed. But what if I told you it's not broken? What if it's working exactly as it's supposed to? What if your struggling is the plan? The struggle of poor people has always been the plan. In every nation in the world, this country was built by people that were struggling. All the founding fathers had uh, unpaid internships that built their mansions, that harvested their crops, and that cooked their food. These people didn't want to be there. They were people that were trapped in a system that was particularly spiteful towards employees who showed up to work without the motivation that they needed to continue making record profits for that owner of that plantation. The same thing can be said about today's workplace. People show up, they don't want to be there, they don't want to participate in the system, but there is no alternative system. There's no plan B for poor people. If you're born poor and you're going to hold poor people jobs your whole life, there is no simply saying, you know what, tomorrow morning I'm going to wake up and I'm going to live like a rich guy. That's not available. You have to figure it out. Your suffering is intentional out there in the world. Why else would they design a system that only benefited one kind of person? And that's rich people. All right, moving down here. Think about it. Why does a mother work 12-hour shifts and still have to choose between dinner and diapers? Why does a young man take on thousands in debt for an education only to end up delivering groceries? It's because this system doesn't see us as people. It sees us as fuel. Disposable, replaceable, exhaustible fuel. I see the proletariat as just meat. Meat designed to create wealth for the elite people in our society. The people that don't see any point towards a 4-day work week or a reduced hours at work. Today, my Gen Zero wanted to leave work so badly that he was just pacing around early in the day, and I was just like, you know, what can I say? This job is hourly. This job's never going to pay enough for you to survive on, and you're only a couple of paychecks away from running out of your savings. And that's where most Americans are at. Once he runs out of savings, there's no more buffer between what you make monthly and what's coming out monthly. What you make monthly doesn't cover your bills. So you dip into other sources of income. And most Americans will turn their nose up at getting a second job. I've met probably hundreds of people in my life who the idea of a second job while they have a full-time job just has no appeal to them whatsoever. But to all of them I've asked, what do you make per week, or what do you make per hour per week, and how much is your rent? They're always negative. Always. One job in America simply isn't enough for the 99%. Everything is too expensive and nothing is going down. Everything is getting lower in quality and our future is very uncertain. And again, I'm going to come back to that murked CEO. America's finally started to notice that things aren't going to turn around on their own. Either you're going to rise up or it's going to stay the same because the system doesn't care whether or not you want to work more than 40 hours. The system doesn't care that you are making below $20 and below. The system doesn't care if you eat. The system doesn't care if you have a place to live. In fact, we live in a system in which they have made it illegal here in Arizona to sleep outside. What does that mean? It's illegal to be poor, it's illegal to be homeless, it's illegal to not be able to carry your own weight when the system is designed for you to fail at every possible point. It's not designed for us to thrive in any conceivable way. Freedom, it's a luxury they sold to the highest bidder, and now we're renting the scraps. They told us hard work pays off, but for who? The harder we work, the richer they get. It's not freedom. They call it that to keep us running, chasing the dream while they're holding the leash. That's the way that I feel. I mean, it used to be that you would chase a carrot your whole life because you were hoping that you would eventually get to bite that carrot. But since that time of chasing the carrot, they took away everything: the string, the stick, the carrot. Now you're just chasing an impossible dream. The American dream doesn't exist for the proletariat. There's no way you're going to get to the American dream on a sub $20 an hour job. Hell, I would even extend that up to a sub $40 an hour because hourly work doesn't lead anywhere for the proletariat. You're just stuck. And in order for that to change, someone up there, a policymaker or a rich person, would have to look down and feel sorry for the proletariat, which they are incapable of doing. In fact, today Mello said this to me: my sympathy bone is not in network. And I was just like, that seems like a pretty terrible thing to say when it comes to a person that is getting a lot of negativity. In fact, today on a post about that CEO, they had to turn off the comments on a video about the event because the comments were so brutal and in favor of eating the rich. And you're just kind of like, this is this isn't normal for society to react this way. So here's my last talking point. But here's what they're afraid of. If we stop believing in the lie, if we stop looking at each other like competitors fighting for crumbs, if we see the system for what it really is, because when we do, that's when real freedom starts. Not the kind that they sell you, the kind that you take back. That's what I felt the last 2 days. The kind that you take back. The proletariat needs to take their freedom back because it's been taken away a long time by low wages, crappy jobs with no benefits, sadistic management, and people that don't think that you should have health care to the extent in which it covers everything. My medical insurance is a joke. And on top of it, I don't have time to go to the doctor. So I'm paying for a service that sucks. I don't have time to use. And most of the time doesn't cover what you need. The last time that I had to go get, whatchamacallit, an exam, what do they call them? Like an x-ray on my leg. I walked up to the counter and I said to the woman, why is my copay for this $300? And she said, because the insurance won't pay for anything. And I told her, who can afford this? And she looked at me and she said, I can't. And I'm like, oh my God, can you imagine that? You're working in a place that offers ultrasounds, x-rays, and all kinds of exams, CRTs, all of that kind of examination. I think it's called Simon's Imaging is the place that I went to. And the person behind the counter is disgruntled about how nothing is covered. That's how I feel about every other aspect of American life. Nothing is covered. Your job doesn't cover enough for you to live in a nice place. It doesn't cover for you to eat good food. And it barely covers the cost of transportation to your proletariat level tier one job that doesn't like you. I mean, I don't know how long it's been like. I think it's been like this my whole life. I just never felt it this badly. That we, as a society of poor people that make riches for other people, we are disliked to the nth degree. To some extent, we're invisible to them. Our suffering doesn't exist because they claim that they don't understand, while they are the same people who are inflicting that exploitation and harm onto all of us.